Hey folks, it's Arthur, but my friends call me Archie. This podcast episode is sponsored by you. If you have a more personal situation you want me to give a more in-depth commentary on, you're welcome to send me an email. And thank you to all those who keep this channel going. Really appreciate you. So today we have a letter from, looks like Emily, and it says, "Hey Archie, I hope this letter finds you well. I've been following your column for a while and have always appreciated your straightforward advice. Thank you. I could really use some of that right now. Here's my story. My name is Emily and I've been dating this guy, Alex, for about 6 months. Things started out great. He's charming, attentive, and we share a lot of common interests. However, I noticed that whenever we have disagreements, I tend to react pretty strongly. For instance, last week we were supposed to meet up with some of his friends for dinner. Alex was running late because of a work call and I got really upset. This is so common. I ended up sending him a flurry of angry texts, accusing him of not prioritizing our relationship. Yeah, elevating, okay? When we finally met up, I was cold and distant the rest of the evening. Alex apologized, tried to make things right, but I couldn't let go of my frustration. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Whenever I feel slighted or neglected, I lash out, often saying things I don't mean and making him feel guilty. He always forgives me, but I can't help but wonder if I'm being unfair to him. I've been doing some introspection and I started to worry that my behavior might be the problem. I really care about Alex and don't want to ruin what we have, but I don't know how to change this pattern. Am I toxic? Sincerely, Emily." What a strong word, this word toxic, right? It's like, it's a bit reductive, right? If you know what reductive is, it's like when you take a situation or a question or whatever it is, and you reduce it to two options, or you reduce it to few options that obstructs like the complexity of the situation, right? So I've heard a lot of people, lately especially saying like toxic behavior, toxic masculinity, this word toxic, and just repeating it over and over. But I want to really put on display here what this word toxic, in my mind at least, really means. It means that you're taking a behavior, you're taking a relationship, and instead of looking at the complexity of this relationship or this behavior and saying, okay, this is a complex relationship, let's look at what we're doing to each other, let's ask each other questions, let's think about this and what my behaviors, where they might be coming from, and you automatically classify or label the behavior as toxic or non-toxic, right? And so there's some utility in this, because when you label a behavior as toxic or non-toxic, it allows you to make a judgment quickly, right? If something for you is toxic, if it's poisonous, then you say, I don't want this in my body, right? If it's a medicine or whatever, and it's got toxic labeled on it, or it's like, a chemical, it's got toxic labeled on it, then you don't put this in your body. If it's non-toxic, then it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. And so we classify the behavior now hurtful, non-hurtful. When I think, Emily, if I could say this, you should take maybe a step back, and this question of, am I toxic, am I non-toxic? If the answer was, yes, you are toxic, imagine this is maybe not so helpful, okay? If a person classifies themselves as being toxic, then they feel that they cannot be in a relationship, they're broken, they are harmful to other people. And this isn't such a good mindset, in my opinion, to have when you're trying to fix some behavioral problems within the relationship, right? Because you might always resort back to this feeling of, I'm toxic. And so instead of reducing your behaviors and saying, is it toxic, is it non-toxic, I would argue for the opposite, and to look at your behaviors for the complexity in which they exist. Right? And so instead of my behavior is toxic, look at where this behavior is coming from, okay? You said here that he's running late because of a work call. He doesn't answer your text, or he doesn't answer he just doesn't show up. It says last week we were supposed to meet up with some of his friends for dinner and he's running late because of a work call. And so you send him a bunch of angry texts. And so instead of looking at this and say, okay, is this toxic behavior? Is this, negative, is hurtful for the other person? You could look at this and look at it at the complexity, right? What do you feel in this moment? right? This is kind of a thing that we all should take some time to, reflect. When a person's running late, when a person's not making time for you, when a person takes a lot of time to text you back, what are you feeling in this moment, and why does it bring about the behavior that it brings about? Okay, so I don't know exactly the situation, but I've seen a lot of these cases, and so I will kind of give like a resume, a resumptive answer of what I've seen. And so, in a situation that a person, you send a message to a person, they don't reply immediately. Immediately in your heart, or within some time of your heart, you have some hope that they will reply, that they'll value you, that they'll be excited to see you, etc. Whatever expectation you might have. When the expectation falls short, there's this feeling of like, they don't value me. They don't care about me. They're not on my team. We're not together. They are against me. And depending on your past relationships with your family, your friends, and your romantic relationships as well, then you will assume whatever you have felt in the past, right? There's a really good book out there called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's this idea that like emotions are not new, right? So for example, if I let someone down for whatever reason, I was supposed to be on time for this dinner, and I let someone down and they were upset with me because I let them down. This feeling of disappointment that I feel in myself, this is not new. This is a feeling, according to this book, right? And I really agree with this book, actually. It is a feeling that you've had in the past of disappointment. So maybe you can think, when was the first time I felt this? Oh, when I was 4 years old and my father asked me to put things away, put things in their place, and I was playing, I didn't do it, and he got mad at me, and I felt disappointed in myself. And so with this book, The Body Keeps the Score, what it mentions is like, when you have this feeling come again, it is a compilation of the feelings that you felt in the past. And so this is why I think it's important to not be reductive and to say, is this toxic behavior? I think you should look at this and reflect on the feelings that you've had in the past, right? And find out why they exist. And as you're doing this, you give yourself a bit more grace. If you write yourself off and you tell yourself like, I'm toxic, this behavior is hurting my relationship, that could be true, but does it give you the space to give yourself some grace, to learn, and to become a better partner? What I want to avoid is that a person labels themselves as toxic and then says, I'm hurting my partner, they would be better without me, right? Maybe that's true, but this idea that like every behavior can be reduced to toxic behavior or helpful behavior, I think is not looking at the bigger picture. It's a bit more complex than that. You do things for a reason. You've had your past relationships for a reason. You've been hurt. You've gone through some highs, through some lows. And looking at this as for the complexity that it deserves, I think will allow you to give some grace to who you are as a person. After you give yourself some grace and you say, okay, I am like this for a reason, like I'm not crazy, I'm following a logical conclusion. The last boyfriend that I had, when he was arriving late, it was because he was cheating, or because X reason that was happening that is now instilling this fear inside of me. And my reaction to this fear that I have is now sending a flurry of angry texts. So reflecting on this, why do I have this? Why am I acting this certain way? And giving yourself the grace of saying, okay, this behavior is not helpful in this situation. My partner would prefer this. This is healing, right? This is healing to look at, okay, the initial feeling I have is this. And then your heart feels a bit closed. They don't value me. He's not showing up late. Your heart is feeling a bit closed. It's feeling defensive. But this isn't primed for healing. It's not, pro-healing. What you should do, if you can, Emily, what I would advise, is to have an open conversation with your partner and with yourself too. Look yourself in the mirror, hold yourself, have your partner hold you, and tell them about the fears that you have. and allow your partner to value you, allow you to value yourself, allow you to validate yourself, and say, these fears, I have them for a reason, you know? And now you can heal. And the healing comes when you question your behavior and you say, is this behavior helping me? Is it serving me? If your partner tells you, you know, I was just running late for a work call and everything's fine, you know, we are a team, I love you, so forth, then allow this behavior to change. Allow yourself to change and have behaviors that suit you, that serve you. And as you're doing this, you will find that those, you know, quote unquote, toxic behaviors that really are logical behaviors, they will start to dissipate and they will not need to exist anymore. It'll bring so much peace into your life, I'm sure, if you give yourself some grace, if you're patient with yourself, and then consciously decide, does this behavior serve me? Does this behavior serve my relationship? Or am I acting just out of fear? And I can tell you firsthand that the majority of people that are acting out of fear, this is not conducive to a successful, healthy, long-term relationship. So, Emily, you know, give yourself this grace. I really appreciate your email. I think a lot of people are going through this, and I think you can, you know, be safe knowing that everything is going to be okay. Give yourself that grace, give yourself that patience, and allow yourself to improve in your relationship. And don't classify yourself. Don't reduce yourself to toxic or non-toxic. I think this won't help you in the long run. Thank you so much.